Blue Marvel. Marvel has several powerhouse characters who are effectively its answers to Superman, and one of those heroes is Hyperion. Ever since the first incarnation of the character debuted in Avengers number 69, Hyperion has been one of the most powerful figures in the Marvel multiverse in all of his forms. But none of those forms have been as destructive or dangerous as King Hyperion, a reality-traveling threat who destroyed entire worlds and their most powerful heroes before making his way into the main Marvel universe. But King Hyperion didn't stand a hope in hell against the Blue Marvel. Blue Marvel Adam Brashear is one of the best Marvel superheroes, one of my favorites and one of the absolutely undefeatable. He's taken on all the Avengers' entire alien armadas, he has lifted a meteor the size of Arkansas and guided it away, and he's uppercutted the hell out of the Ultimate Universe Hulk. Hyperion says he's defeated Blue Marvels before, but he hasn't faced Earth 616's. While he put Blue Marvel down initially, when Hyperion threatened the innocent bystanders nearby, Blue Marvel found a new strength. Letting loose in a way he hadn't before, it took 5 blows before Hyperion was out cold and Blue Marvel stood over him victorious. Number 9. Thor and Hyperion. With the end of the multiverse staring down the heroes of the 616 Marvel Universe across the Jonathan Hickman run on Avengers and New Avengers, Thor and a handful of other heroes like Hyperion, Starbrand, Nightmask, Ex Nihilo, and Abyss ventured across the multiverse to confront the Beyonders, responsible for the collapse of the Marvel multiverse. Now, wielding the hammer of Thor, that's with 2 R's, which can only be used by those that are considered unworthy, Thor went into battle alongside the others, giving everything he had and helping bring down just 2 of the Beyonders at the cost of his arm in New Avengers number 32. Now, after facing just 2 of the Beyonders, only Thor and Hyperion survived the battle. Unfortunately, that battle ended just for another to begin as an entire army of Beyonders descended upon them. In one of the most badass moments in Marvel Comics, realizing that Thor can no longer wield Thor with 2 R's hammer because he has proven himself worthy once again, Thor and Hyperion laugh together and race each other to Valhalla as they throw themselves into this one final battle against an enemy that they have no hope of defeating. Number 8. Monica Rambeau. Monica Rambeau is an insanely powerful cosmic hero, and being one of the heroes to hold the title of Captain Marvel, we would expect no less. Way back in Avengers number 248, a battle was taking place between the Avengers and various Olympians. One of the main fights taking place was between Zeus, a sky father on par with Odin himself, and the god of thunder himself, Thor. Now, to be quite frank, Zeus thrashed Thor like he was a badly behaved little boy. Zeus had Thor down and is about to literally wipe him from this plane of existence when out of nowhere, Monica Rambeau shows up. Shooting Zeus with a little blast of energy that cuts his arm, she orders him to back off of Thor or she will do much worse. Now, Zeus, obviously not seeing her as a threat, fires off a lightning bolt that simply phases right through her living light body, doing absolutely nothing to her. So, in retaliation, she tells him the gloves are off and flies in, hitting Zeus with a blast that lights up the entirety of Olympus. And while Zeus was not defeated, Thor makes note of the fact that Monica hurt him more than any mortal had ever done before, and it shows. Number 7. Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer is easily one of the strongest of Marvel's cosmic heroes. He can do some absolutely insane things, and he has had some massively impressive fights. But one of the ones that I think shows just how powerful he is would be his first ever fight against Null, the symbiote god. At the start of 2018's Guardians of the Galaxy series by Donny Cates and Jeff Shaw, the Silver Surfer was swallowed in a black hole that transported him billions of years into the past, landing him in Silver Surfer Black. At the beginning of time, Silver Surfer faced Null in battle when the symbiote god was just beginning to rise in power, and it was one hell of a fight. Null proved to be an extremely difficult opponent, which we know he is from his fight against literally all of Earth's heroes. Silver Surfer was going to the extent of his power trying to defeat Null in combat, and Null is still getting the best of him using All Black the Necro Sword and his other symbiotes. With Surfer on the ropes facing off against the God of Darkness, he uses the last little bits of his power cosmic that he has to create an entirely new sun point blank in front of Null's creepy little face. While he knows it doesn't defeat Null permanently, it does defeat him for the time being, and it's just super awesome. Number 6. Superman. In Superman number 127, we are introduced to Titano the Super Ape. Now, he started off as a smart ape named Toto that was sent into space, but then was accidentally exposed to radiation from 2 colliding meteors. Now this, for some reason, grew Toto into a massive King Kong style ape who was now named Titano, and it also gave Titano the ability to fire rays of green kryptonite out of his eyes. I don't know. Obviously that is a big problem for Superman, who couldn't really get in close to this super cryptovision ape. But luckily, Superman's girlfriend is able to trick Titano into wearing lead sunglasses that stop the kryptonite rays, at which point Superman just picked up the giant super ape and threw him back through time. Superman chucked his super monkey through time back to the prehistoric era where he could interact with dinosaurs. Yes, Superman is so strong that he can literally throw things through time. He's also thrown Jimmy Olsen through time before, but who cares? This is a giant ape. Number 5. Franklin Richards. While he may not be considered entirely a cosmic level superhero, Franklin Richards, the son of Reed Richards and Sue Storm, is destined to become a key factor in the cosmic landscape of the Marvel Universe. His power to warp reality is so great that he has created entire pocket universes. Now, in one reality, appearing in Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 604, Franklin appeared as an adult, and we saw a glimpse of just how powerful he can be. In the story, a grown Franklin and Valeria Richards worked together with their grandfather, Nathaniel Richards, to travel into the past to influence their younger counterparts and to help fight against the mad Celestials that were threatening the entire world. Galactus was called on by the Fantastic Four to help, and although he brought down one Celestial, the others combined their power and were too much for Galactus to handle. Enter Franklin. Restoring Galactus and imbuing him with enough cosmic energy to stand up to the Celestials, Franklin turned Galactus into his own herald, defeating the Celestials and then being humble enough to give up that power after the fight was over. All the other heroes could do was just look up into the sky and watch in awe. It was actually kinda epic. Number 4. John Stewart Green Lantern. A Green Lantern's power ring is capable of almost anything, but even it has its limits. However, that didn't stop John Stewart from attempting to recreate an entire solar system in Green Lantern number 26. When reflecting on the destruction of the planet Zanshi and its solar system, which is an event that John blames himself for, the hero tried his damnedest to try and bring the world back with just his ring. He broke past the programming of his ring and got pretty damn close to completely rebuilding the entire solar system. Unfortunately, such a construct was too much even with John's iron will, but the fact that he got so close shows how far a power ring can really go when effort is put into it. But let's try one even more than that, shall we? Yeah. Number 3. Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan was possibly the greatest Green Lantern ever, according to the comics at least. But in the 90s, that kinda changed. After the death of Superman and the subsequent reign of the Supermen, Coast City, Hal Jordan's home, was destroyed. This completely changed the Lantern, and he completely broke the programming of his own power ring to revive the city. He created the entire city's layout with all of its buildings, parks, streets, everything. But it wasn't quite right. It wasn't the same. It needed life. So Hal went completely against the Green Lantern's rules and made constructs of all the once living inhabitants of Coast City, millions of people. When the Guardians of the Universe tried to stop him, he completely snapped. He went off the handle, ending the lives of every Green Lantern and naming himself Parallax. Hal became a threat to the whole DC universe for like a decade before eventually sacrificing himself. Sure, he went bad, but he absolutely did not hold back against anyone. Number 2. Orion. Orion is a new god and the son of Darkseid, and as a hero with a dark ancestry, he is quite the conflicted do-gooder. He has many forms and he has many abilities. He exists beyond the normal multiverse on a higher plane called the Sphere of the Gods. Born on Apocalypse but adopted by the gods of New Genesis, Orion is in a constant war with his inner darkness and with his father, Darkseid. Orion is repeatedly praised and stated to be a warrior with skill and ferocity second to none, and in one of his many displays of pure power, he completely wipes out his father. When Darkseid came to Earth, heroes like the Atom and an empowered Jimmy Olsen fought him until a boom tube opened up and Orion came out. The heroes stood aside and let Orion fight Darkseid on his own, and he absolutely wrecked the guy in one slog of a fight. At the end of the fight, after beating down on Darkseid to the level of wiping out entire city blocks, Orion wiped out Darkseid by plunging his hand straight into his father's chest, grabbing his fiery heart and ripping it out clean, leaving Darkseid as a pile of charred bones. And finally, in at number 1 today, the Sentry. Near the end of the Planet Hulk storyline, the shuttle the Hulk was sent to Sakaar in by the Illuminati at the beginning blows up, wiping out Hulk's new family and the lives of millions of individuals on Sakaar. This pushes the Hulk into a whole new level of anger, which is directed squarely at the Illuminati. So he headed to Earth with his war sworn. When he got to Earth, after quickly stopping at the moon to wreck Black Bolt, he headed to New York, giving the city a time limit to be evacuated, and when that time limit stopped, he defeated everyone who was left. Iron Man and the Hulkbuster, the Avengers plus their tower, the US Army, the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Juggernaut, Doctor Strange using the power of Zom, and the Ghost Rider, all while saving innocent bystanders. He then threw the Illuminati members he captured into the ring against each other, sparing them only as he sought justice, not to end lives. Well, the Illuminati had one last-ditch effort to stop the Hulk. The Sentry. Coming in against probably the only being who could take it, Sentry unleashed almost everything he had against the Hulk, leveling city blocks and causing a massive column of fire. These two went blow for blow over and over until they both used up so much energy that they reverted back to their regular human forms, with a depowered Bruce Banner getting in a final punch to bring Sentry down.
In at 10, Ego. When the mysterious cosmic being known as the Stranger visited his home star in order to conduct an experiment that would eventually cause it to go nova and destroy the twin planets orbiting it, the scientist named Egros started to work on a way to save his race from the impending doom. On the eve of destruction, Egros had his people move to bunkers that he had set up at the planet's core to protect them, but things began to go downhill when the sun went nova earlier than expected. With no time left to seal the chambers and assure the survival of his race, Egros tried in vain to reach the underground vault before the solar shockwave could hit him. However, this was not the end for him. Egros was soon merged with every living thing destroyed by the sun, including his race, so that's how the Stranger made Ego the living planet. A second living planet, also known as Alter Ego, was created by the Stranger as well under unknown circumstances and then given to the Collector. But I mean, come on, a living planet? That's weird. That's weird. In at 9, the Batman Who Laughs. The story of Batman from Earth -22 is not much different from that of any other version of Batman. When he was a boy, Bruce Wayne watched his parents get killed in an alleyway, vowing to take vengeance against crime. He trained for years to become the hero of Batman, fighting supervillains in Gotham City. But everything went sideways for this Batman when the Joker started a spree across Gotham, taking down everyone he could. The clown had discovered that he was dying from the same chemicals that turned him into what he was, and wanted to take everyone with him. He killed all of Batman's enemies, including the Penguin, Catwoman, Killer Croc, and the Ventriloquist, and the Joker also killed Commissioner Gordon, who had accidentally sprung an acid trap in his notebook that melted his face off. Barry Raiders. After destroying a hospital and recreating the scene of Bruce's parents' death in front of him multiple times, Batman finally lost his control and broke this Joker's neck. Unbeknownst to Batman though, the Joker had exhaled a toxin that he had contained within his heart that infected anyone close to him if he had died, which in this case was Batman. This caused Batman to snap and basically become the new Joker, which after he took over Earth -22 and then gained cosmic powers, so yeah, that's freaking nuts. Plus, this dude just looks crazy. He's like very, what's the one with the pinhead? Hellraiser. He's very Hellraiser, if you look at him. He is. And at 8, Chaos King. Amatsu Mikaboshi, revered as the deity of evil, chaos, and the stars in the Shinto faith of Japan, occupies a unique position in the cosmic hierarchy. Despite not being classified as Amatsu Kami, the primordial entity exists as an embodiment of ancient malevolence and was eternally imprisoned within Yomi, the Shinto underworld. Originating as an extension of Oblivion, the cosmic force represented the void, preceding the birth of the universe. Amatsu Mikaboshi embodies the primordial darkness and chaos that predates creation itself. As a counterpart to eternity, its power was diminished upon the emergence of the universe, leading to its integration within Shinto cosmology. According to Shinto lore though, during the time when Earth was an unformed void immersed in primordial darkness, Amatsu Mikaboshi held dominion over it. However, the elder deity of Gaia within the Marvel universe, taking the guise of Izanami, and the youthful Amatsukami known as Izanagi, wielding the divine jeweled spear, united to shape the islands of Japan and form the formless abyss. This act of creation ended the era of the Dark God, but I mean still, he exists within Marvel and is a villain, so how are you supposed to fight literal darkness? This is like Supernatural Season 9, okay? You're fighting God's sister basically. That's how I see this, and that's nuts. That's insane. And it's 7, Bizarrenage. Bizarrenage has got to be my favorite amalgam villain at this point, okay? Because I can't believe that I didn't know this existed prior to a couple of lists ago, okay? A combination of Bizarro and Carnage, for crying out loud, is like the best thing ever. Introduced in Spider-Boy #1 from 1996, Bizarrenage was made through a botched experiment at Project Cadmus in an attempt to replicate alien DNA. The white gooby creature they created went crazy and began destroying everything and everyone in its way. Then Spider-Boy arrived and battled him. So Bizarrenage wanted to be Spider-Boy, so he tried instantly to kill him, but was eventually defeated by getting tricked by Spider-Boy and sucked into an energy containment unit. This thing looks like if Anti-Venom was Carnage, and honestly, I could not be happier because this is such a badass character. I wish that there was more of him. I love it so much. Okay, I can't believe that this exists. This is so dope. I kind of want to cosplay this, if I'm not gonna lie, okay? There's not much about him, but he's still super sexy, because we all like some white goop. And it's 6, Annihilus. Annihilus is an interdimensional insectoid conqueror and tyrant hailing from the Negative Zone, a pocket dimension located on Earth 616. When Annihilus discovered the opposing force, the Negative Zone's counterpart of the power cosmic, after long years of failed quests, he finally had the power to fulfill his dreams. With an entity named Ravenous who wielded this power, he invaded the positive matter universe through a portal known as the Crunch. Many worlds and many heroes fell before the Annihilation Wave, and the Annihilation Wave was Annihilus's interdimensional invading force. It was an incredibly powerful force which laid waste to galaxies, slaughtering numerous worlds, and had captured or killed multiple cosmic beings. And Annihilus came close to accomplishing his goal of destroying everything, even taking several Galactus heads, but by that I just mean like heads of multiple versions of Galactus. However, he was ultimately unsuccessful, but he came even closer to winning and destroying reality in What If Annihilation Story, which I hope we get to see in the next season of the Disney Plus series, since that actually takes place shortly after Civil War. But okay, come on, if you have a whole wave called the Annihilation Wave named after you, you're good, you're on the list. Halfway through, in at number 5, the Negative Speed Force. The Negative Speed Force originated as an extra-dimensional wellspring of energy that Eobard Thawne tapped into during his quest to gain superhuman speed. Speedsters who are connected to the Speed Force can, through intense fear, hatred, and anguish, forge a connection to the corrupted force known as the Negative Speed Force. This malevolent entity harbors a deep-seated grudge against Barry Allen, holding him responsible for the demise of his own embodiment, and in the CW series, in an act of retribution, the Negative Speed Force orchestrated a plan to make Barry relive the tragic day of his mother's murder through a convergence of circumstances and a mystical blue crystal tied to the Negative Speed Force. And Barry was transported to March 18th, 2000, the fateful day etched in Barry's memory, to ensure this prolonged presence within that era and the trauma of that day continuing on for a while. The Negative Speed Force disrupted a temporal wormhole that Barry sought to utilize his return to the present, but they stopped him from doing that. The Negative Speed Force seized control of Joe West, Barry's trusted ally and basically father figure, but also his father-in-law, which is a whole other story. But the Negative Speed Force used Barry's friends to try and attack and destroy him, which is insane, okay? I honestly didn't expect the Negative Speed Force itself to be a villain, but hey, it happened. The show's in its final season. It's fine, it's allowed. And at 4, Ultron 1. This is probably the most insanely overpowered version of Ultron that we have ever seen before, and it's coming from the MCU no less. Oh, and spoiler alert for those who aren't caught up on the What If Disney Plus series, but I mean, it's been out for a while, so so it's your own fault. The history of Earth TRN 906 was the same as the MCU until Ultron was able to secure what would have been Vision's body for himself. Ultron managed to download his consciousness into the synthetic body that he had created, thus killing the Avengers and decimating life on Earth. After killing Thanos and taking the Infinity Stones for himself, Ultron remakes the universe in his image. He decimated the Earth, absolutely wrecking everyone in it. He even killed Captain Marvel, Hulk, and Thor, and eventually discovered the Watcher and the multiverse. This version of Ultron literally sliced Thanos in half with the Mind Stone, which revealed that the biggest mistake that anyone made in the MCU was destroying the Mind Stone. But after gaining all of the Infinity Stones, he goes shot for shot with the Watcher, who is a literal cosmic entity that shouldn't really have a true corporeal form, but yeah, hot damn, this is overpowered to the max. This dude is, yeah. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Mr. Mxyzptlk. Mxyzptlk possessed reality warping powers, with which he enjoys tormenting Superman, or making life difficult for him. But I mean, come on, okay, this dude's getting on this list. His portrayal has been varied, with him being an outright supervillain sometimes, an anti-hero others, but in most of Mxyzptlk's appearances in DC Comics, he can be stopped by tricking him into saying or spelling his own name backwards, which sends him back to the 5th dimension. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. And then he has to stay there for at least 90 days. That's 3 months, bro. Come on. Okay, what is this? The American justice system? Put him back for longer. But after Crisis on Infinite Earths, he had a new requirement that needed to be met in order for him to be sent back, such as Superman getting him to paint his own face blue. I don't know why, but like this is one of the few villains that uses Superman's other weakness, magic, against him instead of just kryptonite. But like, come on. Okay, this guy just has the ability to warp reality and do whatever he wants. And then since he comes from the 5th dimension, he isn't bound by the laws of 3-dimensional beings. Whatever that means. I guess this dude sees polka dots as like 3rd dimension stripes. Also, bro, what's with your name? Okay, I get that it's supposed to be hard to say, so it's hard to say backwards, but cut a guy some slack. You're not Rumpelstiltskin. Okay, just chill. But ultimately, in at number 2, Galactiac. A combination of Brainiac and Galactus, the seemingly ageless entity known as Galactiac is the ultimate synthesis of mind and machine. He traverses the farthest reaches of space within the Amalgam Universe, draining the lifeblood of planets in order to recharge his energy cells. But Galactiac does not completely obliterate the planets that he raises. Rather, he always miniaturizes a section of each planet to preserve and to study. Ben Grimm from the Challengers of the Fantastic attempted to destroy Galactiac's machinery, but Grimm's actions merely succeeded in gaining Galactiac's attention and arousing his wrath. Galactiac used his cosmic powers to transform Grimm into the monstrous four-armed thing, which was a mindless minion devoted entirely to Galactiac. Meanwhile, the Guardian had transported Johnny Stormtrooper into the body of the Galactiac in order to destroy the planet-devouring menace from within, which is just nuts. His first appearance was in the Challengers of the Fantastic #1 in 1997, and honestly, this is one of the scariest beings in the Amalgam Universe. Okay, Brainiac and Galactus are already powerful on their own, but combined, sweet heavens to Betsy, no thank you. And finally, in at number 1, Brothers. The Brothers stand as cosmic beings representing the DC and the Marvel universes, symbolizing the vast multiverses that embody them. These entities possess such immense power that even the Living Tribunal and the Spectre pale in comparison. While referred to as brothers, they transcend traditional gender roles because, you know, they're just gods. They're literally just the universes anthropomorphized, okay? During the dawn of existence, they were just chilling, okay? They were like entirely everything save for each other, and they're actually villains within the Amalgam Universe storyline. What the hell? You are literally fighting your universe. Do you understand how stupid that is? I mean, it's like, it's kind of stupid in a good way, but also stupid in like a what the hell, who would have thought of this kind of way. I mean, I love it, but yeah. And if you like convoluted stories as much as I do, be sure you click the video that's coming up on the screen, because goddamn, I'm gonna fight my universe.
Among the stars lurk a bunch of weirdos and bizarre intergalactic threats. At least that's what you might see if you look up at the night sky in the Marvel universe. Oh hey, it's Korvac. This is definitely one of the weirdest weirdos out there for me. Even his name sounds so cosmically weird and just fantastic. Zemnu. That's who we're talking about. Zemnu. Reminds me of Xanadu. Although Zemnu himself, to be clear, is not at all related to that 80s Olivia Newton-John fantasy musical classic. Sadly. I actually really love Xanadu. Zemnu instead is a Hulk villain. He was an alien cyborg prisoner who escaped from exile only to crash land on Earth. And it gets weirder. Zemnu initially hoped to control the minds of the people of Earth and get them to build him a new spaceship. The problem? Other than him being a criminal, this spaceship he'd have built was so powerful that its launch would in essence destroy Earth. Zemnu is a psionic being who can hypnotize his victims and control their minds. He can also use hosts to heal himself, in essence transforming their body into his until there is nothing resembling them or their mind left. Disturbing? I'll say. Even stranger, Zemnu was technically the first character to be known as the Hulk before Bruce Banner even. Zemnu is actually the original Hulk. Are there any other characters like that that you're like surprised that are the original that we don't think of today? Let me know in the comments if you have anyone else. Pretty much everything about Korvac is weird. He is a villain from the future who primarily is based in outer space. He's been a villain of the Avengers and the future-based Guardians of the Galaxy, the original Guardians of the Galaxy, but also at one point achieved ultimate cosmic power, which allowed him to put aside his plots of revenge and his power seeking, and instead seek to rule simply to make the Earth and the cosmos a better, more fair, peaceful, and just place. Still kind of stayed as a villain, but I just love that he's like, you know what, maybe this villain thing is messed up. Maybe I should try a better thing. Still gonna rule everyone though. Yeah. The Builders are still a fairly new addition to the Marvel Rogues gallery, just over a decade old at this point, after first appearing in the comics back in 2012. The Builders are a race of beings who claim to have created most of the known worlds in the universe. Yeah, seeding worlds and influencing the development of civilizations for eons, or so they claim. They are also said to be a perfect race of beings, and when the multiverse appeared to be dying as a result of incursions, they actually took it upon themselves to clean up the mess by basically wiping out complete worlds and empires. They did this to kind of hit the reset button. I also love that they call themselves perfect, and like I'm just like looking at them and I'm like, I guess that's what perfect looks like, kind of like a bug. The fact that they tried to basically reset the universe though did put them at the odds with the heroes during the Infinity crossover event, which is how, yeah, they're villains. The one who we know as the Beyonder is in fact only a young member of a group of others known as such. The Beyonder is a mysterious cosmic being who became trapped on our Earth and then obsessed with the fact that everyone on Earth was only a part of themselves. As the Beyonder also realized there were many different alternate universes in which they all seemed to also live, making up their total character, something which of course many Earth beings were just not aware of. He was the one responsible for creating the first battle world in the original Secret Wars event, where he pitted heroes and villains against one another. He is known for his ability to manipulate reality and for his apparently limitless power when it comes to his mental and physical strength. The Beyonder also returned for Secret Wars 2, also a very wacky and kind of weird event, where he instead simply sought to experience basically what it was like to be human, or at the very least an Earthling, and he just like lived on Earth for a bit, and people were really weirded out and uncomfortable with it because the original Secret Wars had already happened at that point. Annihilus is weird in the most comic book way for a villain. He hails from the negative zone and is insectoid-like in his appearance. Annihilus basically has a cosmic magic wand known as the Cosmic Control Rod that he uses in his attempt to take over the negative zone. In more recent appearances, however, Annihilus chose to wear this rod as a sort of like protective accessory, using it to protect himself against naturally occurring dangers such as aging, as well as heat and cold, in addition to gaining the ability to fly through space. He also initially became a villain of the Fantastic Four because they basically borrowed this magic wand, the Cosmic Rod, to help treat the Invisible Woman during her pregnancy. Maybe they should have asked first? Although admittedly, they did return it after, so. Impossible Man is one of my all-time favorite weirdos from the cosmic realm of Marvel Comics. He's also kind of like a light threat. He's not super threatening, but he sometimes is kind of accidentally. He's kind of like Marvel's equivalent of DC's fifth dimensional imp, Mr. Mxyzptlk. Impossible Man hails from the planet Pop-Up and is known as a Papupian. He is often depicted as being more of a misguided villain than a malicious one. For the most part, he gets into trouble with heroes because of usually a misunderstanding, or because he has like a real true love for pranking. Like Mr. Mixie, he is sometimes an ally to the heroes, who he also has been known to torment, and is known for being pretty intensely powerful, having molecular manipulation powers which allow him to change his form, shapeshift, and he can even duplicate himself. Also, he's got a very goofy design that honestly reminds me of a cross between Mr. Mixie and the Coneheads. Man, I love the Coneheads. This hungry supervillain that we're about to talk about is so ingrained in the existence of the universe that we once learned in the comics in an alternate universe that eliminating him would actually be a bad idea. Yeah, even though he's a villain. In this alternate universe, and of course it's implied in the main continuity, Galactus is a necessary constant, and when he was defeated in the alternate reality, and this was revealed, it actually prompted Franklin Richards to take his place. Yeah, there's an alternate reality where Franklin Richards becomes Galactus. I know. The multiverse, anything is possible. Galactus was once a scientist known as Galen, trying to save his homeworld from the end of not just their world, but kind of the entire universe. Sadly, he realized that resistance was futile here, and he and the rest of his people decided to just accept their fate and instead just like fly into their own doom. Miraculously though, Galen somehow survived and found himself actually chosen. He was granted great cosmic power, but with great cosmic power for him came great hunger, causing him to eventually become the devourer of worlds that we so famously know him as. So yeah, definitely a threat, but not always meaning to be like malicious about it. Although he might not be as bizarre as some of the other villains mentioned here, I'll let you decide, but for me he's up there. Cordyceps Jones is still a pretty out of this world villain. Literally. He first appeared back in 2017 in Rocket issue number 4 and was created by Al Ewing and Adam Gorham. Cordyceps Jones is known for having a salacious reputation across the cosmos. He is a 30,000-year-old fungal parasite who, due to his longevity, has made an intergalactic fortune and is known for owning many successful casinos across the cosmos. Space casinos, my favorite kind of casino. Recently, he appeared in the X-Men series where he seemed to be threatening the existence of Earth, setting up a bet for fun to see who can basically be the first to wipe out Earth. Needless to say, the X-Men were not pleased to learn of that and actually planned a casino heist with the help of Gambit's friend and their ally Rocket Raccoon in order to deal with Cordyceps Jones. And spoiler alert, they did. Yeah. You don't want to go up against Jean Grey, you know what I mean? I don't care how old you are of a fungal parasite. Magus is the evil version of Adam Warlock, and we all know how powerful Adam Warlock is. Magus, being his dark equivalent, is extremely dangerous and also has a willing army at his disposal in his own church that he created, the Universal Church of Truth, which, while it sounds probably pretty nice, is actually not very nice at all. They would harshly purify any planets who refused to accept their offer to join them, exterminating all who resisted. Across the cosmos. Yeah, pretty awful. Being that Magus is the negative side of Adam Warlock, he possesses all of his abilities and powers. The evil side of Adam Warlock, Magus' story is a pretty complex one as well. One that is filled with general cosmic confusion, but I'm gonna try to simplify it a little bit for you here. Basically, Magus was created to oppose Thanos. He bumped around through time and he found himself educated by chaos and order, and he used what he learned as principles with which he built a faith and created the Universal Church of Truth, using this religion to fuel an intergalactic holy war. Yeah. Marcus Immortus has to be one of the weirdest cosmic villains we have ever had in the comics, hence why he is all the way up here on this list. Initially introduced as Carol Danvers' one true love, Marcus Immortus made his first appearance in the infamous Avengers issue number 200. Yep, we're talking about Avengers 200 again. From that issue, it would be made to seem as though Marcus was kind of the fated love of Carol Danvers. Although when you laid out his full origin, it was beyond weird, and his behavior here actually seems more downright criminal. Marcus was the baby that Carol gave birth to, a seemingly immaculate conception at first sight. We'd later learn that Marcus was also the baby's father. Just come along with me here. Basically, Marcus abducted Carol because she reminded him of his mom and he seduced her. He then slept with her in Limbo, where he was trapped at that time, before releasing her back to her own dimension, back to Earth, without any memories of what had gone on in Limbo. His Limbo, not Magic's Limbo, just to be clear, they're separate. Carol was his means of escape, as he was able to be reborn in her dimension through her, which was how she had become pregnant, and also how she gave birth to the man who was once her lover, and then he became her son, but he was still himself. He grows up really fast, it's weird. The part where Marcus is made to seem as Carol's one true love comes from her confusion surrounding whether or not to go back to limbo with Marcus. She feels bad, she's like, he's gonna be alone and maybe I love him, I don't know. This all happens after it's discovered that his presence in her dimension is actually causing it to basically crumble. And she just realizes, I guess she has feelings for him. Miss Marvel leaves the Avengers, weirdly choosing to ride off into the sunset back to limbo with Marcus. And at the end we all stood there and went, wait a minute, that was a love story? That sounded like a villain.
Starting us off in at number 10, Terrax. Originally known as Tyros, he started as a dictator of landlac in a solar system around 80,000 light years from Earth. He maintained control using his power over rock. In essence, this guy was a more advanced earthbender, being able to animate figures out of stone that would patrol the kingdom, maintaining his order and rule. However, this wouldn't last forever, since Galactus was seeking a new herald to guide him towards his next dinner buffet. Galactus had also finally learned that you shouldn't have good guys find you worlds to destroy. So when the Fantastic Four asked Galactus for help against the Sphinx, his only condition to help was if the Fantastic Four subdued Tyros for him. They did, and Tyros was exposed to the cosmic power of Galactus and turned him into Terrax the Tamer. His control over stone was improved tenfold, and he could nearly control a whole planet of stone at once. In addition to this, he was granted the Cosmic Axe, which was capable of generating waves of cosmic force. Terrax was nuts, even beginning to wipe out worlds before Galactus got there, even at times defying Galactus' wishes, which is pretty ballsy if you ask me. I mean, like, that's what you get for hiring a bad guy though, I guess.
Number 9. Umar. Umar is the sister of Dormammu and is basically on a similar level to her brother. She has a great knowledge of magical lore which she can use to do a vast number of things. She also is capable of teleportation and time travel. And you know how I feel about teleporters, they are pretty OP in my opinion. Same basically with any person, hero or villain who can manipulate time. Umar often allies herself with her brother even though he hasn't always treated her great. I don't think Dormammu will be winning any Brother of the Year awards is all I'm saying. She has also been shown to be more powerful than Doctor Strange even, on occasion. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list as much as I love all of the things that are cosmic, cosmic things, they're so great, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. I think that was a sentence that made sense.
And at 8, Ego. Introduced in Thor number 132 in 1966, Ego was created when a mysterious being known as the Stranger visited his home star in order to conduct an experiment. A scientist by the name of Egros started work on a way to save his race from the nova that experiment had left inevitable. The night of the explosion, Egros had his race move into the bunkers he had set up at the planet's core, but the star exploded sooner than they had planned. So in an attempt to save his own life, he tried to reach the underground vault, but failed. However, Egros was merged with every living thing destroyed by that sun, including his people. This created Ego the Living Planet. Considering how this guy is literally a living planet, I think it's safe to say why he's on this list, especially when he was able to hold his own against Galactus. Yeah, a few months after a battle with Thor, Galactus discovered Ego and instantly attacked. Understandably. Ego in his defense created a shield of solid clouds and began to fight back, attempting to strangle Galactus with tentacles. I feel like I've seen that video before. Either way, anyone able to hold their own against Galactus is well deserving to be on this list.
Number 7. Dormammu. Dormammu recently actually came out on top against Ego in a battle, and in certain conditions possesses limitless power. Dormammu is part mystical and part cosmic in terms of what kind of villain he is, but make no mistake that he is not out of his element in outer space at all. Dormammu has battled against Odin and has even threatened to end the Celestials before, who are like super cosmic, claiming that he will be the one to destroy the extremely powerful beings. I think we're still waiting for that to happen, but I believe. Not only has Dormammu threatened the existence of Earth before, like we saw in the MCU, but in the comics he has threatened the entire universe and even entire reality of Earth 616 before. So that's the kind of level that he's generally on. There's like other villains, and then there's Dormammu.
And at 6, Michael Korvac. Being first introduced in Giant Size Defenders number 3 in 1975, Michael Korvac's father was killed due to events surrounding his birth in 2977. He was raised by his mother, but when the solar system he lived in on Earth 691 and its colonies became the target for the Brotherhood of Badoon, Michael became a traitor and helped the Brotherhood. However, after a few moments of hesitation later on, he was cut in half and fused with his computer by the Brotherhood, turning him into basically a cyborg. failed. But this seemed to do more harm than good for the Brotherhood, since now Korvac was dead set on killing those who did this to him. At least until the Grandmaster teleported him to battle Doctor Strange and the Defenders. Korvac intentionally lost the battle and instead siphoned some of the Grandmaster's power using his new cybernetic abilities, making him even more powerful than before. Eventually this guy ended up impersonating Kang the Conqueror and the Watcher, and with his ability to siphon power from others, this makes him one of the scariest villains in the Marvel Universe. At least if he was smart about it and didn't go and get himself killed. Multiple times.
Number 5. The Builders. The Builders ended up being an insanely massive threat when they first showed up on the scene. They were destroyers of worlds, flying around, completely wiping out all life on planets, and threatening some of the greatest empires in the cosmos. Although, originally they were kind of more like creators of life and planets, but I digress. In order to defeat the Builders, thought to be the oldest race of beings in the universe, Earth's heroes were compelled to join forces with the galaxy's other superpowers, including the Shi'ar Empire, the Kree, the Skrulls, Spartax, and more. It took an intergalactic army to even stand a chance against the Builders, and even then, that chance initially seemed pretty bleak, pretty slim. Captain Universe, who was said to have created the Builders, joined the fight against them, and eventually all worlds rose up and united, and were able to defeat them. Later on, an even greater cosmic threat, the Beyonders, who we really need to talk about on a part 2 for this list actually, destroyed the Builders. The Beyonders are pretty crazy.
Getting close to the end, and in number 4, Amatsu Mikaboshi. To the Shinto religion in Japan, Amatsu Mikaboshi is the god of evil, chaos, and the stars, a primordial being who was imprisoned in the Shinto underworld, known as Yomi, for all eternity. Fun. First introduced in Thor Blood Oath number 6 in 2006, this guy is an absolute beast. Just look at him. This thing is my sleep paralysis demon. Mikaboshi fought against the Demogorge for control of literally the universe, and that's not even a joke. This guy was going to wipe out an entire race of interdimensional beings known as the Kami, just to get a sword known as the Grass Cutter. Yeah, the Grass Cutter was a sword of such great power it apparently was worth wiping out an entire race of people. Dude, just get a lawnmower. Mikaboshi existed before the universe did, before the Big Bang, back when time didn't exist and when the universe was only darkness. He can take on anyone from Thor to even Olympian gods by using his extreme arsenal of powers like shape-shifting, bending matter, mystical energy blasts, you name it, this guy can probably do it, including absorbing the entire multiverse, because he nearly did that as well. He was less than 2% away, actually. So close.
Number 3. Magus. Magus is the evil version of Adam Warlock, and we all know how powerful Adam Warlock is. Magus, being his dark equivalent, is extremely dangerous and also has a willing army at his disposal in his own church that he created, the Universal Church of Truth, which isn't really as nice as it sounds at all. They would harshly purify any planets who refused to accept their offer to join them, exterminating all who resisted. Pretty awful stuff. Being that Magus is the negative side of Adam Warlock, he possesses all of his abilities and powers.
Penultimately, in at number 2, Thanos. I'm sure we all know about the Mad Titan, especially thanks to the MCU, but while Thanos' MCU counterpart was portrayed as a man wanting to help a dying universe, at least kind of, the comic version of Thanos had a much simpler objective: impress death! Thanos is the definition of insane, doing whatever it takes to impress Death and gain her affection, and this coupled with an insatiable hunger for power and control makes him quite the dom. From the Cosmic Cube to the Infinity Gems, Thanos' lust for power is never satiated, but even so, he doesn't want to destroy everything. I guess since if he did, there would be nothing left to rule, and no more death to impress his mistress. This causes him to even at times join forces with heroes when there's a bigger threat than himself, teaming up with Adam Warlock to stop Magus and the Goddess, and teaming up with the Guardians to stop the invasion of the Cancerverse, just to name a couple. So while he could kill most of us in a snap, at least we know some of us would survive, so that he could then dom us.
Number 1. Galactus. Galactus is obviously one of the greatest and most constant cosmic threats that the universe faces. He is a devourer of worlds whose bottomless hunger is what makes him such a feared antagonist, even though really Galactus himself is generally pretty neutral without his hunger. In fact, he's even been a force of good on a few occasions. Still, whichever side he's on at the time, which let's be honest, usually is considered to be the more villainous side simply because he needs to destroy worlds to continue surviving, he is not a villain you'd want to come up against, as not only do you have to face him, a massive cosmic giant wielding the extraordinary power cosmic, but you also usually have to deal with his heralds, who themselves can be a lot to handle, and also have a little bit of power cosmic.
Number 10, Flash Gordon. Dun 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 dun. Flash! savior of the universe. Well, Alex Raymond created Flash Gordon in 1934 solely to compete with another futuristic space hero, Buck Rogers. The character set itself apart as Flash's adventures took him farther and farther into the strange worlds and locations of space. The handsome polo-playing Earthling was transported to an alien world dealing with the rule of a horrible evil ruler, Ming the Merciless. Flash became a hero to the world of Mongo, fighting alongside characters like Prince Vultan of the Hawkmen and Prince Baron, the displaced ruler of Mongo, to overthrow the villainous Ming. In the 1950s, Flash became an astronaut who traveled to other planets besides Mongo. Using starships that can travel faster than light, the long story of the Scorpio War takes Flash to other star systems. Flash and friends also fought a bunch of other villains, including Azura, the Witch Queen, Brucka, chieftain of the Giants of Phrygia, the Red Sword organization on Earth, and Brazor, the tyrannical usurper of Tropica. His story and adventures only carry on with other writers and into that really campy but awesome movie. Number 9. Green Lantern. Though many characters have held the title of Green Lantern, none is as iconic as Hal Jordan. Hal was a test pilot who found a dying alien, Abin Sur, in the wreckage of a crashed spaceship who was a member of the Green Lantern Corps, an intergalactic police force that wielded strange power rings. In his dying moments, Abin Sur passed his ring on to Hal Jordan, drafting him into the Corps and granting him the power to create anything his mind could envision so long as he remained totally honest and completely fearless. Although Hal Jordan's assigned sector of the universe includes Earth, it also includes about 33 other planets, all of which need his and his other Green Lanterns' help. And that's not including the whole rest of the universe, which also falls under the care of the Green Lantern Corps as a whole. Hal Jordan has had many ups and downs as a character, even at one time betraying the Green Lantern Corps and eventually giving his life to redeem himself. Don't you worry. He eventually returned to life in Jeff Johns' landmark miniseries Green Lantern Rebirth, which I highly recommend you read. Number 8. Captain Marvel, an alien warrior named Mar-Vell, whose adventures eventually brought him to Earth and into the path of the Avengers, was the individual who would first go by the name Captain Marvel in Marvel Comics. Wielding a pair of energy-wielding negabands, and with the ever-useful cosmic awareness, Mar-Vell found himself voyaging through strange worlds in an iconic example of the way-out superhero space stories taking place at Marvel Comics in the 70s. Though Mar-Vell passed away due to cancer in the early 1980s, the Captain Marvel name did not. Monica Rambeau was the second person to hold the title in the comics after Mar-Vell. Monica's powers are truly extraordinary. She can transform herself into any form of energy on the electromagnetic spectrum, such as light or X-rays. She can also use that energy to fly through space at the speed of light, generate energy beams, become intangible, and more. She was even powerful enough to stop the symbiote god Null during his first invasion. The most recent holder of the Captain Marvel title, however, would be Carol Danvers. She began her career as Miss Marvel in 1977's Miss Marvel #1 after meeting Mar-Vell in 1968's Marvel Superheroes #13, and he exposed her to the energies that transformed her into a human Kree hybrid. And her powers have evolved significantly since her debut. She can generate energy blasts of varying scope as well as absorb energy attacks that are extremely volatile. Captain Marvel is also generally invulnerable to magic and, in the recent comics, is even exploring using magic herself, making her even more powerful. Number 7. Martian Manhunter. Though many people don't realize it, John Johns, the Manhunter from Mars, is one of DC Comics' most powerful superheroes. This quiet and humble Martian, in addition to possessing all of the many powers that Kryptonians also share, is also a shapeshifter who can morph his body however he wishes and is one of the DC Universe's most powerful telepaths. He can turn invisible, effortlessly phase through solid objects, or make his fists as hard as a diamond as he punches someone in the face, nearly as hard as Superman can. He was a law enforcement officer on Mars before he became a detective on Earth when he was marooned here, but being an alien, he is intrinsically tied to the wider galaxy and has many adventures that go out into the stars. But like many cosmic superheroes, he has a quiet, reserved personality which, when you learn just how incredibly powerful he is, it it makes you just respect him that much more. Number 6. Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer has a pretty iconic internal fight. The constant struggle between responsibility and morality in a universe where evil is often more necessary than good. Sorry, I read that quote while I was making this video and gosh, it's so good. The Surfer was originally Norrin Rad, an astronomer from the planet Zen La. When Rad discovered that Galactus, the devourer of worlds, had come to devour Zen La's life force, Rad struck a deal with the cosmic entity to seek out uninhabited planets that Galactus could consume. Eventually, Galactus became aware of Earth and set out to make it his next meal. The Surfer arrived just in time to warn the Fantastic Four of Galactus' arrival, which was what initiated his initial reveal into the universe of Marvel in Fantastic Four number 48 to 50, and started a great relationship between the Surfer and the superhero family. The Silver Surfer's adventures often center on philosophical conundrums as much as physical challenges, and Stan Lee has used the Surfer as a vessel to express some of the writer's own worldviews. As for his powers, he is in possession of the power cosmic, which granted him both power projection and absorption, as well as a degree of matter manipulation and even soul manipulation, among many other abilities. Number 5. Superman. Superman often finds himself exploring the far-flung reaches of other galaxies as well as defending Earth, and specifically his city of Metropolis. Stories frequently find the superhero in locations ranging from the region of space where his birth planet Krypton once orbited, which, fun fact, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson, is in the Corvus constellation near red dwarf LHS 2520. In case you wanted to know that, I don't know. 2 planets like New Genesis and Apocalypse, the twin home of the New Gods. Stories have seen him holding black holes with his hands, moving solar systems, punching death, and he broke Highfather's staff out of the Source Wall, which is the barrier between us and the unifying force of the universe. Which my puny brain cannot really even comprehend what that means, so we're just gonna carry on. Okay. Number 4. Orion of the New Gods. Orion is a new god and the son of Darkseid, and as a hero with a dark ancestry, he is quite the conflicted do-gooder. He has many forms and he has many abilities. He exists beyond the normal multiverse on a higher plane called the Sphere of the Gods. Born on Apocalypse but adopted by the New Gods of New Genesis, Orion is in a constant war with his inner darkness and with his father, Darkseid. Orion is repeatedly praised and stated to be a warrior with skill and ferocity second to none. While undercover on Apocalypse, he was the greatest warrior and would have slaughtered the entire army during training, quote unquote. He has held open the hand of the god of strength and might, who is threatening creation and ripping holes in reality with his strength. He stands against and fights a sun-amped Superman one-on-one, something no one else in the Justice League was able to do. And he can tank star system destroying explosions, so there's that. Orion moves with the speed of thought. His intelligence was enough that he created the Genesis box, which can destroy and rebuild a universe. He can grow to any size, move through time, has a healing factor, super senses, and wields the Astro Force, which does a hell of a lot on top of everything, but as an example, it once sealed holes in reality and knocked out Superman in a single shot. And that's all just Orion holding back and not using his true power called the Source of the Beast. But I think we can all agree Orion is the beast here. Number 3. Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock is one of the most powerful cosmic characters, maybe not just in Marvel Comics. He was the keeper of the Soul Gem, and beyond the powers that comes with, which allowed him to pass back and forth into the Soul World, he is immortal, able to regenerate himself and gain new powers using a cocoon, and can manipulate matter and energy on a cosmic scale. Warlock was created by a group of researchers who called themselves the Enclave. Their goal was to create the perfect human being, the pinnacle of future human evolution. The creature they had created emerged and immediately sensed that something was not quite poppin' with his creators. They wanted to use him for evil, so he escaped and became Space Jesus in the Marvel Universe, and there is no other appropriate title for him. I don't care what you say. He has destroyed and rebuilt reality, is the avatar of life, and has even become the living tribunal, otherwise known as the Judge of the Universe. Number 2. Divinity from Valiant Comics. Abram Adams, otherwise known as Divinity, is an incredibly powerful godlike hero who appears in Valiant Comics. He's a lot like Watchmen's Dr. Manhattan, who may be coming up later, I don't know. His power is so great that he is basically a god. Knowing full well the impact his actions could have, he doesn't really involve himself in human level issues, letting us instead learn from the mistakes we naturally make, which we rarely seem to do. Abram came into his power after joining the army of the Soviet Union and taking on a 30-year-long mission into deep space. Abrams and his partners came upon a planet at the end of the galaxy, or beyond, called the Unknown. After removing his helmet, Abram Adams breathed in the air of the unknown and was changed. The powers bestowed upon Divinity are as such: chronokinesis, which is the ability to manipulate time, forced evolution and de-evolution, energy manipulation, molecular manipulation, reality warping, flight, solar flare and heat vision, telepathy. He has super senses, can survive in space and other vacuums, not vacuum cleaners, but I'm sure he'd do fine inside one of those too. And in case you haven't guessed it, he is also immortal. I think of all the heroes on this list, Divinity is easily one of the most powerful. But no, number one. Number 1, Dr. Manhattan. After he was destroyed and reconstituted from the atomic experiment gone wrong, John Osterman, also known as Dr. Manhattan, has no need for food, sleep, or oxygen and no longer ages. He has nigh omniscience and possesses an understanding of the workings of the universe on a cosmic scale, which puts him comfortably in this list. But more than that, he has reality warping and matter manipulation powers, allowing him to end literally everything if he wants to, which he foresaw himself doing, so he obviously has precognition even as far as a millennium into the future, and he can even see alternate possible futures. He has causality and time manipulation, which allowed him to return the metaverse to how it was before the interference and remove 10 years from the universe's timeline, creating the New 52 in DC Comics. In a crazy show of power, John experiences all the reboots in DC continuity, and yet he remains unaffected, and additionally, John exists in every timeline all at once, meaning that he has duplication and dimensional travel abilities as well. He possesses elemental manipulation, creating a ring of blue fire, producing an oxygen field, creating water, and producing electricity. He can phase through things, create human life, make plants grow. He has instantly analyzed and learned magic after being attacked with it, and absorbed energy from a Green Lantern ring, and even absorbed magical attacks. Dr. Manhattan is basically a cosmic god, so number 1.
Number 10, Cosmic Ghost Rider. What happens when Frank Castle becomes a Ghost Rider just as planet Earth is dying and there is no one left to avenge? Well, you get the brilliant and insane Cosmic Ghost Rider. This version of Frank Castle ended up teaming up with Galactus originally in order to try and take on Thanos, who threatened the existence of all life at the time as he tried to win the heart of Mistress Death. In the end, no one was left to serve but Thanos, and Cosmic Ghost Rider was driven mad by loneliness and heartbreak and being unable to die, so he eventually ended up joining Thanos anyways. He is as powerful as he is insane at this point, and is a frighteningly cheerful version of Frank Castle, especially considering all of the horrors he's witnessed, especially when he was serving Thanos. Did some pretty bad stuff. Number 9, Annihilus. Annihilus is a somewhat lost being who was created in the negative zone on a planet known as Athros. He evolved from life spores that were left there and ended up mutating and growing to be a highly intelligent insectoid-like life form. He has been an enemy and ally to the Fantastic Four, depending on the circumstances, and he also once almost took over Asgard, managing to take on the Asgardian soldiers and even beat Thor. Thankfully, Odin stopped him before he could succeed. Poor Annihilus, I feel like he's so lost in life. Really needs a stronger purpose. Number 8, Iowa the Mungazoth. Hope I'm saying that right. Known as the Lord of Darkness, Iowa the Mungazoth is called upon in an issue of Creatures on the Loose from the 70s. This cosmic eldritch god-like entity could also be tied to the many-angled ones, who occasionally crop up in the Marvelverse. But we don't have enough information to really know whether or not for sure if Iowa the Mungazoth is a separate entity or simply one that we've maybe already met but is operating under a different name, under some kind of alias. He is one of the gods referred to in the comic by the High Priest of the Dragon King, known as Sa. Sa, in the story, aims to make 3 human sacrifices in order to give the energy to the Lords of Chaos that they need so that they may travel across the cosmos to Earth. Sounds like a bad idea. Sounds like you probably don't want the Lords of Chaos to come by, but you know, to each their own. I guess if you're the High Priest of the Dragon King, you do. That's what you want. I'm not here to judge. Number 7, God Quarry. In 2016's Thanos series, there's a place known as the God Quarry. It is a pit guarded by 3 eternal witches, known as the Coven. The pit is said to reward those who can overcome its challenges by granting them with great power. But first, you must face whatever it is that could potentially be holding you back. Once in the pit, you find yourself merged within it, becoming a part of it, and then you begin to see what it is that could most tempt you. For me, it would probably be a big pile of cookies. For many leaders who have come there seeking power, the temptation was too great and they could not escape. Instead, now a part of the pit, they remain trapped for eternity. But hey, with great risk comes great reward. And yeah, Thanos did have to go in that pit. And what happens? You're gonna have to read the series. I don't want to spoil it. Number 6, the Universal Church of Truth. Almost a misnomer, the Universal Church of Truth is not as innocent as it sounds. It is made up of believers from planets throughout the universe who worship the evil being known as Magus. The church invades planets, and if the planet's inhabitants refuse to accept and adopt their faith, they will burn it to the ground, killing anyone who refuses to join them. They're basically like a really insane cult that invades, converts, and conquers planets. So yeah, they sound better than they are. Number 5, Phalanx. I'm not actually sure what is more scary, the Phalanx or the race they're believed to come from, the Technarchy. The Phalanx's main goal is to eventually conquer and assimilate, so to speak, the entire universe. Now, how do they do this? As a technological race, they use a virus known as the techno-organic virus to infect the planets they come across and eventually use it to devour all organic life there and consume all information on the planet. This virus is the same as the one that Cable is infected with, or well, it's similar. He is sort of a variation or an evolution of the virus that they use. But they're both techno-organic viruses. Just not like completely identical. Number 4, Dormammu. An evil cosmic being, Dormammu is one of the most powerful foes in the Marvel Universe. Up until Thanos truly revealed himself, and maybe even after Thanos came to full Infinity Gauntlet power, really, Dormammu was the most powerful foe that we'd seen in the MCU. And odds are good he'll return at some point, given how powerful he is in the Marvelverse in regards to the comics. He's attempted to depose the Celestials, and at one point even tried to take on Eternity. Even if he didn't fare so well, just the idea of taking on Eternity is a big, scary deal. Eternity basically embodies the entirety of Earth 616 and is only surpassed in terms of authority by the Living Tribunal. So yeah, pretty serious business if you're taking on Eternity. That entity, I wouldn't want to mess with it. Number 3, Shumagorath. Shumagorath is one of the great old ones and many angled ones, basically a Marvel version of an Elder God. Like Dormammu, he is also known as being one of the Lords of Chaos. Although it's been unclear throughout the comic lore to tell if there are truly multiple Lords of Chaos or just one Lord who keeps being renamed throughout, this many angled one is known for being one of the oldest entities in the Marvel Universe. He has returned to Earth many times and set up as a god there, being worshipped even on Earth before the sinking of Atlantis, where he demanded blood sacrifices. Sounds familiar. Sounds like someone else we heard of earlier. Are they the same person? Maybe. I don't know. Number 2, the Brood. These aliens are insectoid beings who reproduce through finding hosts on other planets whom they can implant with their offspring. Great, right? Do we love that? Yeah, basically, you get the picture. It's kind of like Alien, except instead of something bursting out of you, it hatches and then completely takes you over, inside and out. Basically possessing your mind and your body, and then just killing you in the process, so you're really no longer there. The Brood don't just do this to survive, though. They actually enjoy the terror and horror that they cause among other species. They enjoy hurting and frightening others. It doesn't bother them, and to them, it's even pleasant or amusing. Yeah, so scary. Number 1, Cancerverse. While the Cancerverse is an alternate Marvel universe, much of what we see of it involves a cosmic presence.
Most of the important goings-ons in regards to stories involving it happen in outer space. The Cancerverse is a world where there is no death. Sounds nice, right? Think again. Without death to provide balance to the world, life was left without anything to hold it back, and as a result became a wild and evil thing, transforming into something like an eldritch god or a monster. This all came to pass because the original Captain Marvel made a deal with the many-angled ones in exchange for them curing him of his cancer. The many-angled ones themselves is also pretty horrific. So